On August 8th, 1963, the world's most valuable train robbery takes place. A gang of 15 men stops a Royal Mail train carrying 2 full-time detectives and sacks it of all its valuables, making off with £2.6 million in today's money. This is the story of the Great Train Robbery. In 1963, Britain was obsessed with trains. It was the golden age of rail travel, and mail trains were popular targets for thieves looking to make a quick buck. But no robbery would be as audacious or as well planned as the one that took place on August. Our story begins with a man called Bruce Reynolds. Reynolds was a career criminal who had spent most of his adult life behind bars. But while in prison, he hatched a plan so audacious it would make him a multi-millionaire. The plan was to rob a mail train. Now, this wasn't unusual, but what made Reynolds' plan different was the amount of money he planned to steal. You see, once a month, a Royal Mail train would carry the payrolls for civil servants from London to Glasgow. And it just so happened that August was one of these days. To pull off his audacious plan, Reynolds put together a gang of 15 men, most of whom he'd either met while in prison or on the criminal circuit. There was just one problem though. They had no way of stopping a Royal Mail train carrying 2 full-time detectives. But one of the gang, a man called Roy James, had worked on the railways in the past and knew just how to do it. He proposed that they find a level crossing that the train would have to pass over and then block both ends with vans. Simple enough. But where to get the money? Well, that part was simple too. All they had to do was wait until the train stopped, open the back doors, and walk away with the payroll bags. Of course, things didn't quite go according to plan. When the gang reached the chosen crossing, they found that another train had beaten them there. So they were forced to wait another 3 hours before their van. Eventually, the Royal Mail train came barreling down the tracks and the gang sprung into action. As the train approached the first roadblock, one of the gang stood in the middle of the crossing with a red flag, pretending to be a railway worker. When the train had passed, another gang member set fire to the signal box, plunging the area into darkness. The rest of the gang then unloaded bags and bags of cash into their waiting van. They made off with a total of £2.6 million, Ponzi modern-day equivalent of over £4.7 million. The nationwide manhunt that followed is still considered to be one of the biggest in British history. Over 700 officers worked around the clock to catch the gang and the mastermind behind it all. Soon, the first arrests began, and one by one, the gang was rounded up. Those arrested were charged and tried with the crime of the century, while most of the gang were convicted and sent to prison. 2 of the men, including the mastermind, Bruce Reynolds, managed to flee abroad. Reynolds lived out the rest of his days in France and Spain, occasionally returning to Britain to pull off daring jewelry store robberies. Eventually, though, he returned to prison, this time to a cell in Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight. So why is this robbery still talked about today? Well, at the time, it was seen as a huge embarrassment for the government. Not only had a bunch of career criminals robbed the Royal Mail, but it seemed like the police were helpless to do anything about it. In fact, the case was referred to as the greatest peacetime robbery ever seen anywhere in the world. Even more shocking was the fact that the gang had gotten away with so much money. 4 years afterwards, people joked that the national debt should be written off as an investment in the UK's new national lottery. And that's the incredible story of Britain's greatest train robbery. Do you know any obscure history facts? Share them below. Thanks for watching.